Hello, friends and beautiful people. It's Kathryn Massell, 5D visionary, elevated consciousness coach. Hello and greetings and love and peace to you all. I wanted to talk about my upcoming program, but I also wanted to, give you a nice segue in talking about that and letting you know that, we're definitely at a point now where we have this pretty big undeniable fear about, losing our connections to 3D consciousness. Losing our connections, in other words, to what feels familiar, to what feels comfortable for us. And it can be argued that we feel in these very tumultuous times that we are losing our identity, because everything that felt or does feel familiar about who we are, how we've defined ourselves, our very self-evident, let's just say personal reality that we've relied on up till now is all in question, right? Who am I anymore? I'm not even the same person I was 5 months ago, let alone a year ago, let alone 3 years ago, let alone 5 years ago. Many of us can honestly say we feel like completely different people now than we did in the very recent past. And that's because our entire personal reality, our identity, which are interchangeable, are completely coming into question. And we're beginning to reprioritize our lives because of this questioning and really look at what matters. And we are looking at, this deep questioning of all the third dimension paradigms that have defined our lives up till now. How useful have they really been to not only you individually, but to us collectively? How useful have these paradigms and structures of being, of reality, been to the human family at large? And it's another interesting thing that's happening because of all of the mask wearing. Again, this is, I never want to say this to be political, but it can be argued, and from a psychological standpoint, that all the mask wearing and that inability to have this primordial gift that we all have, which is facial recognition, and I feel sorry for kids because this is something that is, coded into part of our recognition software for other, let's just say, recognizing other humans, being able to look at facial features to decide whether you can trust that person or not, or whether that person is familiar, or, being able to read people's eyes is going to be a stronger gift that comes in. But our ability on a primordial level to have facial recognition, this is an instinct that we have as humans to be able to read whether we should feel fear or not, or whether we should feel trust or not, or anything like that. And with the mask wearing, not only are we losing that ability, or we are, being learned out of that instinctual capability, but we are also feeling like with everyone wearing a mask, we're kind of losing our identity a little bit. Is this meant to be part of our learning curve of dismantling our identity? Is this help from our galactic team to kind of help us bridge the gap to, hey, we got to break down everything that we thought that we were. We got to start to unravel and deconstruct everything and everyone who we thought we were. The person that we envisioned ourselves as and built ourselves up as through this whole lifetime. Are we being given maybe a cosmic gift to start looking down at, all the different, sum totals of our wholeness and starting to question all that? Stripping ourselves down to a singular identity. I mean, we're just an entire human family that wears masks, in some countries more than others right now. It's kind of a great equalizing effect, isn't it? So it's kind of weird when you think about it that way. So is that helping us bridge maybe our intellectual gap in trying to reach unity consciousness? if we are breaking ourselves down to look at each other as being all kind of on an even playing field. Just food for thought. You can sit with that one. But largely what I want to talk about here is that as everything is coming into question, as you know, all parts of our life are coming into high contrast in terms of, hey, this is what we need to look at now. We can't deny this any longer. You know, this stuff that's been a problem for humanity for a long time is really coming up, bubbling up to the surface now, so that we can't really be in denial anymore about how certain structures or paradigms were serving certain people, but really not serving others. We can no longer deny that there is not equality on this planet in terms of culture, race, socioeconomic standing, financial standing. There is actually huge gaping disparities between a lot of different groups of people on this planet. We're being forced to see all that. And what all of this is serving to do is allowing us to see what kind of foundation we've been building our lives on up till now, and what the human family has been living with and building up our lives on for thousands of years now. It's all coming up into question. It's all coming up for review. It's all coming up for deeper levels of investigation. This is good, even though this unraveling and deconstructing is powerful and profound, and yes, stokes fear and misunderstanding and miscommunication and misinformation and confusion and chaos and mayhem, all those things. But you have to understand something about ascension here. Without this process of unraveling, deconstructing, unbecoming, we cannot make room for where it is that we are asking to go. Those of you who are asking to, have ascension energies, elevated consciousness energies take hold in your consciousness, not to just be aware of them. We're moving past the fact that all this stuff that I'm talking about is self-evident now. It is. But how do you allow this, awakening to take hold within you and anchor within you? It always and ever is a requirement that you must let go of all of your connections to 3D consciousness, those old 3D paradigms and duality illusions that, yes, did define your reality, defined our reality. Without letting go of everything that gives you this kind of earthly identity and illusory sense of self-worth or self-meaning, none of that really meant anything. And I know that stings to hear that. But a lot of what built us up in terms of who we think we are, our identity is, our personal reality, our personality, what we think that is largely built on illusory beliefs, illusory thought forms, an illusory sense of self-worth that is based on a certain level of ego conditioning. And if we hope to truly embody, anchor, and move into unity consciousness, we must be willing to let that go. And this is the biggest thing that stokes fear in the hearts of many, is this idea that in order to let go of, who you are and really unravel and deconstruct everything you thought you were, is to unravel and deconstruct all of the beliefs, all of the attitudes, all of the opinions, all of the 3D thought forms, all of the low spectrum of vibration feelings that defined who you've been, all the shadow that you've worked through to define who you've been. There are still a lot of us who are defining ourselves by all the shadow we've challenged ourselves to move past, right? We are still looking at ourselves, some of us, not all of us, looking at ourselves in terms of what we've triumphed over, not who we became as a result of that, but we are still, in a way, kind of defining ourselves in terms of, I was this person, I was that person. I was so self-deprecating. I was so self-diminishing. I was so discounted. And you're still hearkening back to those things as if that defines you, as if your shadow themes of who you've been define you, instead of who you are now as a result of triumphing over all of those conditions and shadows and themes of disempowerment. Who are you now? Who do you want to become? Who are you really desiring to move into? And many of us see this, again, this vision of a greater ideal reality for ourselves as still, well, I have to work through this shadow, or I have to work through that level of disempowerment first before I can get there. So even in our future version of self, we're still defining ourselves by what we have to get past, what hurdles we have to jump over in order to get there. It is all this illusory self-worth crap and bullshit, earthly identity bullshit, that we have to get beyond in order to really anchor in ascended consciousness. And the biggest fear, or I should say the biggest hurdle with all of this, is the fear of letting go of something that, yes, was comfortable for us for so long. Yes, even in that, those difficult times, there was still some comfortability in knowing that we were that person. There's still some familiarity there. And the biggest hurdle is the fear of letting go of what is familiar, even if it really didn't serve us that well. This is our biggest hurdle in front of us to anchoring in unity consciousness, which is ascension. But in order to move into ascended consciousness, we have to deconstruct ourselves. We have to be in that kind of painful peeling away of all the layers of the illusory self-beliefs, the illusory self-worth that has defined us and created our entire personal reality. That has to be dismantled. And the biggest invitation from those who would help us ascend, our galactic team, here for the entire planet, here for you individually, the biggest invitation coming from them is to look at everything in your life that has no spiritual foundation to it and be willing to let it go. This is tough. This great unraveling that's happening individually and collectively is no small feat. It's not a trip to the beach, right? It's no picnic. But it is absolutely, unequivocally a requirement for ascension. And so for what I do as an elevated consciousness coach, and for what I anchor into as a 5D visionary, what I do as a 5D visionary is I sort through a lot of different timelines. You could even call it remote viewing of a lot of different potentials or opportunities for ways of being, which would loosely define a timeline. And I look at where we can go. What is possible? What are we already anchoring into and moving into now? And as a 5D visionary, I kind of cast my attention, my focus into that timeline. If you want to call it seeing the future, fine. It's a potential. And then I say, okay, isn't that interesting? How do I reverse engineer that way of being? And in doing so, build a bridge, being able to create a teaching, a level of spiritual wisdom that I can impart to you so that I can help us build that bridge to where we have that potential of going. And how can I get as many people on board with this potential of where we could be going, that is the highest and best, in service to all of humanity or most of humanity with the least amount of resistance involved? How can I get as many people on that train, that ascension train, as possible? I teach group programs. I create ideas in the world of the etheric, and then I reverse engineer that bridge. I build it back into the physical world so I can create an actual, tangible, practical teaching to help people bridge the gap from where they are to where we could be going. Helping us anchor into that highest potential. And that is what my next group program is about. So preparation for physical ascension is about specifically those of you who are having your biggest hurdle right now to moving into ascended consciousness being that place of fear, where you're feeling like this illusory belief that if you're moving into ascension and you understand, maybe on a deep subconscious level, that it is about a letting go, that it is about an unraveling, that it is about a deconstructing, but that stokes fear in your heart. And from the ego-centered, conditioned part of you, you're saying to yourself, that's scary. I fear this letting go. I fear like I'm losing something, as if there's something to look at behind me that still has some value instead of in front of me that has value. This program is designed to help those of you who are feeling that very keenly. But also at the same time, you're feeling this and you're kind of blowing in the wind with this kind of ego conditioning, kind of fear-based part of you that feels like you have something to lose by letting go of those 3D connections. At the same time, you know that you're here to help shine a light on the pathway for not only your own movement into ascended consciousness, but for others who would be led behind you. And maybe you're not an energetic healer, maybe you're not a spiritual teacher. It doesn't matter, really, because we are here to create a bigger light that shines on this pathway of where we are going as a human family, of what we are physically ascending into, who we are becoming. Whether you're a teacher or not, we can all teach through example, okay? And if we're holding the light, if we become a beacon for others, there's a lot bigger chance that others will follow in that well-lit pathway behind you. So, like it or not, you have been singled out, or you've been chosen, you've been selected, or you chose to be on this earth timeline right now, to be in this earth timeline, to be in greater service to humanity, even if you don't know what that is yet. You would not have incarnated here at this time on planet Earth, at this very auspicious time in this 3D reality realm, unless you were meant to help shine a light on this pathway to ascended consciousness, so that others could be led behind you. Think about it this way. Let me give you the bigger picture here. As a soul being, when you were given the choice, or you were up for selection for where you would incarnate next, and some people don't continually incarnate. Some people go into a place of learning for a while. They go back home for a while before they incarnate in a physical form again in some reality realm. But you're here now in a physical body at this timeline on planet Earth when we are moving the tipping point of ascension towards critical mass. You as a soul being could have incarnated in millions and millions upon millions of different places. There are so many different reality realms. In the infinite universal matrix of the all that is, there are infinite upon infinite reality realms that you could have incarnated into. Star systems, planets. You could have incarnated in a different form, not as human. You could have not have incarnated at all and stayed in a place of learning. But you came here. If you don't think that's special, if you don't think that's important, I am asking you right here and right now to reevaluate, and reprioritize who you are and why you're here. If you find any power, if you find beauty, you find some sort of profound bit of knowledge, a nugget of knowledge in these words that really resonates with you, then you are probably designed and a perfect candidate for this program, Preparation for Physical Ascension. It starts on September 14th. This is going to be kind of like a New Earth Mystery School initiation. where we're going to move past a lot of the fear that there is something to lose, that there is something that, you know, you're missing out on if you ascend, if you let go, if you unravel, if you deconstruct. For those of you who feel like you are really at that tipping point of remembering your divinity, there's something there. Maybe you can't put your finger on it. You know, maybe you don't have the verbiage to be able to describe it, but it's there. And every day you wake up, it becomes more and more undeniable. Okay? You are here and you incarnated here at this very auspicious time on planet Earth for a reason. You're meant to be here. But what are you meant to be here to do? What are you meant to be here to share? And what kind of teaching could help you find that? Could help you, give you the navigation points and the guidance that you need to have more of the information come to light about who you are, why you're here, and what your help, through your particular energetic frequency, what you're here to help anchor on the planet, to help move us towards that tipping point of ascended consciousness, to help us reach that critical mass of moving into elevated consciousness, unity consciousness. So there are 9 different stations in this 9-week live group program. We're beginning on September 14th. I'm going to put all the details here because I'm not going to go through them all here. But you must have your DNA activated to at least 24 strands using the sacred DNA activation and restructure method. This is a very different, comprehensive method. It's not like just downloading a meditation for DNA strand activation and then sitting with it, okay? This is completely different. This is a one-on-one session. This is comprehensive, and it is a restructuring in the physical. So all the activation that takes place with your etheric DNA gets translated into the physical, into the body. Because what's unique about this ascension process that we're going through is that we are ascending with the physical bodies. Okay, there are other civilizations on this planet who were involved in mass ascension, and they ascended without the body. They left the body behind. What is unique and different about this ascension process is that we are ascending with the physical body, and literally when you undergo DNA activation, what you are doing is you are surrendering or letting go of that carbon-based matrix of the physical body, and you are moving into the light body. Okay, you are activating the crystalline silicate matrix of the body, which is a pre-ascension requirement. That's what this level of DNA activation and restructuring does. Other methods don't do this in the same way. And without removing seals, holographic inserts, implants, etc. on the body, sure, you can do other DNA activation methods, and you do get that high in activating your strands of whatever, 24, 48, 80. But without removing the seals and the implants and restructuring the physical body, you just get forced back down into density, and you have to do that DNA activation all over again. Whenever you do sacred DNA activation method, you do not have to activate those strands again. You're done. You're good. Okay? And because I'm offering DNA encodements, 9 different encodements, these are number series that it's like, remember when you had a combination lock on your locker in high school? And you had to hit the sequence, and you had to do the turning just right, and you had to hit the number just right. That's what these DNA encodements do. And they help to unlock the encodements that are already part of your divine DNA blueprint. And it helps to unlock and awaken those codes that are already part of your instruction sets for ascension. Ascension is built into your DNA. But without the right encodements and tools to unlock it, you can learn this stuff intellectually, you can take it in, but you're not necessarily taking it in on the etheric and the astral and the physical and the emotional, the spiritual, etc. Okay? So it's 9 stations of ascension preparation. And with the DNA encodements and the structure of this class, which will be lecture, encodements, and discussion, it allows you to make the internal changes necessary for being able to embody the next level, the next evolution of your enlightened human consciousness, okay? And it allows you to graduate from the 3D reality school and into unity consciousness. And because there is such a high level of support, I always create that kind of high level of container of support in all the classes that I teach. You're going to be able to move past that fear you're feeling, which is completely illusory based. But that fear you're feeling that there's something to lose when you let go, that there's something better behind you than there is in front of you, you will lose that in this program. And you'll be able to, when you let go of that, you make room, you're creating the energetic void that allows all of the higher spiritual understandings to come through in a much more profound way. So that is the next program I'm teaching. It is called Preparation for Physical Ascension, Shifting the Physical Body to the Light Body. We are beginning on September 14th. If you have received Sacred DNA Activation and Restructuring from another Sacred DNA practitioner, there's only about 34, 35 of us, so I'll know. It has to be this method. This is the only accepted method because it is so profound, it is so comprehensive, and it really helps you create a very firm and wide, supportive foundation for us to be able to build in the DNA encodements that are going to be shared in this program and to be able to take in the spiritual knowledge and wisdom from this program. 9 stations of awareness, 9 encodements, 9-week program starting September 14th. Because you are in this group, I am offering right now the special on bundling the DNA activation with the 9-week program. I was going to wait till the Global Acceleration of Ascension Summit to offer this bundle price, but it is available now. So it's $9.99 if you want to bundle those two together. The regular price would be $11.96, and if you bought them separately, it's even more than that. So I'm going to offer that now and through the end of the summit, which is September 6th. If you have not had your DNA activated, you must have that booked and done with me by the 7th of September. Did I say October? September 6th is when the bundle price is good for. You must have your DNA activated and restructured with me in order to begin this program starting September 14th. You have to have your DNA activated with me and that process done by September 7th. So there it is, folks. I hope that this information has found you well, and I hope that you'll consider taking this program, because it really is for those of you who feel that kind of dichotomy within you, that kind of conflict within you, that fear of something to lose, but you know that there's something greater on the other side of that fear. And once you are to hurdle that fear, so much will open up for you, and that is true. It's everything about moving into this next evolution of our consciousness. The only thing that is hobbling us from fully embodying it is our own fear that there's something to lose, or that what is ahead of us is not as good as what was behind, or that in losing our familiarity, we won't know who you are. On the contrary, you will know exactly who you are. And a lot of things that you've struggled with your whole life to have become clear to you, suddenly, just as an epiphany or a revelation, starts to become abundantly clear for you. It feels at home with who you are as a divine human. So, love and light and peace to all of you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.